Hey, welcome to another episode of GeekOutdoors.com. So in this week's Geeky News, we're going to be talking about how Huawei just surpassed Apple. And secondly, we're going to be talking about Amazon Linux 2. So what the whole rankings that I'm talking about here is actually the total number of units or phones shipped. And Huawei just reported for the second quarter of 2018 that they shipped 54 million phones. So that actually puts them in the number 2 ranking, and now Apple is number 3. And in terms of total percentages wide, this accounts for 15.7% of the global market share. So Huawei, which is a top Chinese brand, has now just surpassed Apple in terms of total global market share, and Apple is now down to 12.1%. And right after Apple is 2 other Chinese brands, which is Xiaomi and Oppo. And who is actually the number 1 brand? Well, it's none other than Samsung, who actually shipped 71.5 million phones in the second quarter of 2018. Now, even though Apple has dropped a little bit in the overall global rankings, don't feel bad for them, because when it comes to money, they are still at the top of the mountain, and they actually reported $53.3 billion in revenue in quarterly earnings. And so, yeah, don't worry about Apple. They're not going anywhere. Now, this is kind of interesting because this is something that all these manufacturers predicted a long time ago. Specifically with Apple and Samsung, if you remember the whole patent litigation back in 2011. So Apple and all these companies knew that this time was going to come. And so that's why all of these legal proceedings happened so early on, many years ago. And guess what? This is what's happened. You know, there's a lot more competition. Smartphones are everywhere now, so it's become more of a commodity. And so these companies already predicted years ago that it's going to be harder and harder to make a profit out of them. And even though Apple is still raking in so much money, you know, the Apple iPhone is still their top selling device. And so, you know, once people stop buying iPhones, which people keep predicting is going to slow down, whenever that time happens, Apple is already well positioned. And so with all of this happening, there is a shrinking overall market share of 1.8% year over year. So what do I think is going to happen in the future? Well, I have kind of talked about this before with different form designs and different technologies, but the biggest area where all of these companies are going to make money is in subscription-based services. You know, so if you look at Apple's earnings, a lot of their revenue has come from their services. Okay, and so a lot of other companies are all doing the same thing. Right? If you look at things such as Adobe products, they're all completely subscription-based. If you look at Microsoft Office, they're all subscription-based. You look at all the cloud and web services, they're all going to the subscription-based model, because that gives you a lot of long-term income, and it actually brings people into their ecosystem and keeps them in there. And so all this hardware, these physical devices, they're not going to be the highest generating areas of revenue, and they haven't been for a long time now, but even more so as we move into more of a completely internet-based age. And so in the second bit of news, speaking of internet, is Amazon Linux 2. And so if you didn't know, Amazon Web Services is probably one of the largest profit makers for Amazon besides their products. They offer these services to primarily businesses, but also consumers. So it's a cloud-based server system that allows you to do everything from virtualizations to deploying applications on very large scales. And the thing is, all of these Amazon Web Services or their Elastic Cloud services actually run on Ubuntu Linux servers. Now, one of the things that they're offering is this Amazon Linux 2. So basically, this is a complete solution. So you could actually get desktops deployed, and this is all based upon Ubuntu Mate. And so you could get different versions of this particular desktop deployed, whether it's just for office-related stuff, like it'll be packaged with LibreOffice and other office-based applications, or you could have it for purely development, or you could even deploy it for research, you know, data sciences, you know, or even if you actually just want just regular desktops, okay, to actually replace something like a Windows 10 and Windows 7. And then, as a matter of fact, I think pricing wise is actually 15% less than if people went with the actual Windows solution through Amazon Cloud Services. So this is actually, I think, a big thing because of the fact that as Linux desktop users, we are a small minority, and as I have alluded to before, operating systems will pretty much disappear in the future, at least in terms of the way that we use it, where you would actually get it individually, download, install on your machine. You know, this is very similar to before, where people buy packaged operating systems. People don't do that anymore. They'll download it. And so in the future, all our operating systems are going to be cloud-based. Okay? So what that means is you really won't know what operating system is underneath. Okay, it's just going to be the whole entire user interface that people are familiar with, the entire ecosystem, all the services that are coming with it. And so with that being said, I really feel that the back end underneath, it's still going to be running Linux. It's just going to be having multiple operating systems on top of it, and honestly, most people, it doesn't matter to them. Okay, and so that's kind of where we're heading. And we're already there for the most part, especially in the whole business sector, where this is huge cost savings by just having all your applications, your operating systems all deployed through the cloud. Okay, it's much easier to manage. It's much easier to actually deploy. Security is a lot easier, and your overall cost is a lot cheaper as well, because now you don't have to purchase all these individual machines for operating system, buy licenses for software, and all the other headaches that come with maintaining it. So that's it for this week's Geeky News. If you had any thoughts on Huawei surpassing Apple as a top smartphone vendor, or Amazon Linux 2 and cloud services in general, be sure to leave that in the comments area below. And as always, if you did get value out of these videos, be sure to share, like, and subscribe. Hey geeks, if you are a creative geek like me and you wanted to learn how to create content on YouTube and other places on the internet, then check out my Gold Content Creators group, where you'll get access to 30 videos plus additional content for all the creative geeks out there. And the best part of it is, all of this is free. Simply head over to the link below, check out my page, and sign up for my Gold Content Creators group. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the other side. Thanks for checking out this episode. And as always, if you like these videos, be sure to click on the subscribe button. And for full written content, audio content, and additional geek stuff, head over to geekoutdoors.com, and I'll see you outdoors on the very next episode.